I'm going to take us live just so you
Great,
guys know.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay. How many do we have, Sue?
We have at least 4.
Hey,
Okay.
Sanders.
Hey.
Hey, Al. How's
Hey,
it going?
Albert.
Hello.
Matt?
Matthew. We
How's it
have
going,
6.
Yep, we are live.
Okay.
Awesome, Sue. So it's 4:33. If we can get attendance, we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, great. Angela Banks, Christina Bennett,
Present.
Joseph Clark, Lewis Cross,
Present.
Regina Fowler. Here. Sheila Goodwin,
Here.
Donna Jones, Yvette Levy,
Here.
Bobby Richardson, she's coming in right now, Albert Sanders,
Here.
and then Justin Stein. Okay. So hi, Bobby.
Hi, Susan. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby.
Okay.
Hi.
So we have 6. Oh, 7.
Awesome. That means we have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Yep.
And then I guess my question is, did everyone get the information that Sue sent us regarding the RFPs and the evaluation drafts? Does everybody have that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. Then Sue, if you want to talk to us about the proposed RFP schedule, and then if we can take questions if anyone has any.
Hey, absolutely. Let me put that up for you guys. Okay. Does that look okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what I did is just really kind of took a look at all of our professional services vendors for the most part. There's a few other little things that I've got under other, but if we want to just take a look at the top box there, and really just developed a schedule looking at when contracts were ending and just some other things. So the very first one that I have, so these are in order of years, so kind of developing a schedule to do them, over a period of a few years, not all at one time. But so the first one we're looking at is the actuary, and that is currently Buck. And we have had this agreement since 2012, October of 2012. Well, actually it was updated in its current form since October of 2012, but it goes back to February of 2010. So what I want to mention real quick while we're talking about the actuary, just so you all are aware, we are actually going to have a new contact with Buck. I know we have worked with Troy Jaros for a long time, but we're going to have a new contact. And so his name is Michael Ribble, and he's going to join the regular Board of Trustees meeting coming up on the 19th of April, just to introduce himself and say hi. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick, so you guys wouldn't be surprised when he shows up at the meeting in a couple weeks. But Troy is no longer with Buck, so we have Mike Ribble as our new contact. And I've worked with Mike before, so I think he'll do a good job for us. So with Buck, the reason they're kind of on the list right away is at one point Troy had mentioned that their fees hadn't changed and sometime, but that was something that we're going to have a discussion about. So I thought it would be good to put them up kind of first for RFP. So if we've got to take a look at other providers and then kind of move forward. So the next one that I have is the investment consultant, and The furthest that I could see going back that we have agreement with NEPC is back to October of 1997. It could be longer ago than that. They might have had a different name, but that's the furthest that that I can see that relationship went back. The agreement was updated in October of 2009. I thought there was a comment at some point that the group was interested maybe in seeing that RFP sooner rather than later. So I put them for coming up for this year, so we would do RFPs this year with the contract starting in January of 2022.
Sue, I have a question for you on
Certainly.
those two. So would we put, aren't we up for an experience review this year?
Right?
And isn't that the actuary that does that?
Yeah, they would complete that this year, though. They would complete
Okay.
that in 2021.
Okay, good. So it wouldn't conflict with any work that they would be doing this 2021 year, and a contract would start at the beginning of 2022.
That's
I
right.
see that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for everyone's information, we were on a schedule to do the RFP in 2000 and I want to say 17 for
Yes, that's correct.
NEPC, but that fell through, and here we are 2021. So we haven't really done it. That is correct. Since 2009, we haven't done any RFP on NEPC. So that is correct.
So Sue, before you go on, are these first two being bid this year? Buck and NEPC?
Yeah, those would be, first two out of the gate. Yes, that's right.
And so a copy of the bids for everyone. Or I guess first, when are the bids even going out?
Well, we'd kind of want to do it fairly soon. I do have access to the draft document that was prepared that Christina mentioned back in 2017. I do have kind of my own drafts that I've used too for these types of things. So, probably could put something together here for everybody to review sometime next month. So maybe try to get it out in June.
Okay.
Maybe no later than June to get it out. And that gives us time to review it and kind of get rolling. But I probably wouldn't want to go any later, and probably early in June as we could go.
Okay. All right, great.
So then next up is Gallagher, and they do a couple things for us. We kind of have two relationships. There's two different arms of Gallagher. We have Gallagher that helps us with the benefits for the retirees, the medical, dental, vision. And then we also have Gallagher that helps us with our business insurance. But, they're both handled by Gallagher. Any consultant or broker that we go with should be able to handle both. So again, that relationship goes back, as far as I could see, back to June of 2007. There was something updated in 2016. So these I would see we would do in 2022 for 1/1 of 2023. The audit firm, Anders, again, that goes back to 2001. It could be earlier. Their name has changed. The last agreement that was updated was December of 2019. So they are going to do audits for us. They're working on the audit this year, and they'll do audit next year. So then the contract ends with them. So it really would be time to do it for January 1 of 2023. So we would do that in 2022. The custodian, which is US Bank, has been with PSRS at least in the 90s. It might even go further back than that. That was Mercantile. PSRS was in the Mercantile building way back before this building. So there's been a long-standing relationship with US Bank. We did actually just do, with Matt's help, we did work on a updated agreement. They had some fees that were different fees they were charging us. but they kind of put them all together. They had a new agreement, and we actually saved a little bit on some fees. We just did that in 2020. But overall, really, I don't know that this has ever gone out for RFP. So kind of looked at that one as maybe we do next year.
How much did we save roughly, Sue?
That's hard to say because it's based
Okay.
on our, what we have in the bank, so to speak. But what they did is, and I don't remember exactly how it came about, but there was two different fee structures that they were charging us, and one was higher, the other was less expensive. So they just put all the funds together with the less expensive fees. So it's probably not a huge cost savings, but it was nice that they went lower and didn't want to go higher. So
Susan, does US Bank, do they handle just our operating accounts or do they handle any investment accounts?
yeah, they have, so we have 3 accounts with them.
Okay.
We have operating account, what we call the pension account. That's
Mhm.
where the pensions are paid out of. And
Okay.
then we have then our trust account. And
Mhm.
then they serve as the custodian, for all of our money managers or for most of our money managers and, with that trust account as well.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Lewis will tell you this was one that was up to be put up for bid way back in 2005 or 6.
That's right.
And once we ended up getting Andrew, he refused to put them up as an RFP. And we didn't push it, but this is one that since inception, going back earlier than this, that they've never been put up for bid. And we don't necessarily have to have our custodian in town, but that was the basis, is because we were housed in the Mercantile Tower before we moved to this current location. So kudos to putting them on the list.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a big thing, but as you can see, we that's the amount. The 170 is what we spend annually with them, but there's other things too, the bank account side of it, and there's just all kinds of things that go into this custodian. So it's it's something that does need to be looked at. Anything else on 2022 vendors?
I did have a question on the audit firm. Do we want to come back later on that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. When, if ever, have we had a forensic audit of our books?
Well, they come every year, Anders does, and they go through everything. They will, take a look at everything we have on pension side, pension payments, all checks written. They, what do I want to say? They randomly select certain checks, and then they kind of follow it through. They randomly select payments, pension recipients. I mean, they do a pretty thorough audit. And that, of course, is the document that forms, the basis for our comprehensive annual financial report.
But
Yeah.
so the answer, I'm sorry.
Just so you know, yeah, they are responsible for doing a financial audit, and they do a limited internal
Exactly.
controls review. I'm not sure if they are equipped to do a forensic audit. I don't know if they have that certification. Anders, they might, since years ago. But their regular financial audit would be a very limited internal control audit.
Exactly. Forensic is a detailed and complete audit, where if there's any kind of problems or anything, that's what they're looking for as they do the audit. Is that right, Regina?
Yeah, they would do a pretty detailed internal control audit, which is different from what they are responsible for and what they're reporting on.
Yes.
Those tend to be costly to do such a detailed audit. And usually, a lot of times, you don't necessarily go through that unless there's some concern about the internal controls. And then it may not be theft, it just may be internal control weaknesses And usually they'll highlight if they have some concerns. But
That's what I was
Mhm.
getting at, internal control weaknesses.
yeah,
And if
Hey.
we've never had one, and we've had one director for 14 years and we never had, and I'll come back to that, but I think that's something we might want to consider as well.
Okay.
Well,
and
Louis, we don't have to wait till an RFP. We can actually meet and then meet with the auditors in a separate meeting and ask them to do a little bit more scope of what we're looking for in their I don't know, well, they're in current audit at the moment, aren't they, Sue?
Yeah, they're finishing up. We do, they come in January, and in January, we do look at internal controls. We have to produce certain documents to show how we do things now.
Right.
And so that's where they do
Yeah.
some testing.
Yeah, there's a very limited scope in financial
Exactly.
audits for internal controls. It's just not required by the,
Right.
Correct.
the
Right.
audit standards to do a detailed internal control evaluation. Also, if we do something in detail, you might want to have different firms do it, because it's hard for auditors to go back and basically go back to look at what they're doing, because they kind of look at it, in a low scope. Sometimes it's hard for them to really catch it if they're doing a financial audit. So if we're seriously thinking about doing something like this, we might, get another firm to do that. However, I will say, just because we did change executive directors, and the new executive director, Susan, has a lot more, has extensive experience. Fact of the matter, if there's really something going on, she would actually be the person to find it, being her new into the position. To be perfectly honest, that in itself is a good control for forensics, because you have someone new who's still, proving her strengths and stuff like that. She would be more likely to find it than sometimes an auditor would. just or something for consideration. And the only reason I say this, because I used to be a public accountant auditor some years ago, so I'm familiar with with this.
Well, Anders should be at the regular board meeting on April 19th. So we want to talk about it that time, that they will be at that meeting.
Okay. Okay. All right. So where are we?
Okay, so if we're ready to go to 2023, that is our property management firm. We have had CBRE pretty much since we've been in this building. Their fees do increase annually based upon CPI. That was in the original agreement. So just depends on, what other services, we may spend up to $20,000 a year with them, and then they assist us in the property, such as the lease. We have our tenant and they assist us with that lease as well. So I've got them on the schedule for doing the RFP in 2023, and then contract in January of 2024. Then we also have our legal firm, Hartnett. Again, it could be earlier than 1999. There were some name changes, but that's as far back as I could trace it. Their name did change in 2019. And there actually is no formal agreement with the attorney. So there's no time frame necessarily there. But I thought with some of the things that we're going to be working on regarding with the legislature and trying to get some statute changes, I kind of put the legal folks out a little bit further. And then we do have our technology vendor, Blade, that we work with. Again, we have an agreement with them that will take us through the next, so doing RFP in 2023 and starting that actually in February of 2024.
Sue, did we ever get the updated computer data information system that you had requested?
The server, yeah,
The
actually,
server, yeah.
yeah. So the server is actually live now. We started the install back in February, and it's just a number of things that have to happen. So it was actually very minimal disruption. They did a lot of stuff after hours that they didn't charge us for. So we had President's Day holiday. They started that. And again, it wasn't a holiday for them. It was a holiday for us. So they got a lot of their work done that didn't cost us any extra. So yeah, the server is doing great. Just went live last week.
Okay.
So anything else on 2023, questions on that? And then I've got some additional vendors that we'll be looking at. We do have dental and vision insurance that we are responsible for providing to the retirees. The dental is coming up, that agreement with MetLife that started back in 2014. That one is ending this year. So we do have to go out. And because a lot of the same vendors that provide dental insurance also provide vision, there's not really any formal agreement with Vision Benefits of America or VBA. So we're just going to we want to do both of those at the same time. We think there could be some good, we could maybe get some really good cost savings leverage if we have both of them out at the same time. So this is what Gallagher would help us with. So that would be, working on, we've already had some preliminary meetings on that. So that'd be for this year. And then we do offer some Medicare Advantage plans outside of what the retirees can have through St. Louis Public Schools. Those plans through United Healthcare. But separate from those, we do have for our folks who are Medicare eligible, we do have the Medicare Advantage plans currently through United Healthcare through 2018. So again, just looking at them for next year with a 1/1/23 start. A couple of other vendors we have, and I don't know that we would necessarily do full-blown RFPs for these, but we do have our printing services and our mail services. We've worked with both of those companies for a long time. And, I really am probably just going to go out informally and just see, what I can get. I don't know that we necessarily have to do RFPs on those, but, probably just do that through this year and see what we can get. So that's the list.
Okay.
This is an excellent job of getting all this together, Sue and Yvette and Angie. So I commend you on that.
Sue did the work. Sue did the work.
Oh,
so thank you, Sue.
Yeah, very, very happy to do it. So I don't know if we want to, make any modifications to the list or.
I think it looks good, and I think you've got a plan for those first two, the investment and the benefits consultants for June. So I think we're in a good place. Same thing with the dental and vision. Are you thinking, I guess I should say, what are you thinking timeline for those?
So we will have RFPs to look at in May. So next month from Gallagher, they'll draft them for us and we'll go through them. And then in June, get those out, and July. So the idea would be by the August regular board meeting to have those recommendations.
Sounds good.
And if anybody, on the benefits committee, we'll talk with Donna about that and see, if they want to participate in those process, certainly we can have available.
Hey. Yeah, I'm gonna right now.
All right. Sounds good, unless there are more questions.
Okay.
No, I don't have any more questions. Regina,
Yes.
have you decided which committee you might like to work on?
I probably need to have my memory refreshed on the names of them, but I do think I have decided, and it was one that you guys are trying to encourage me to get on initially, but I wanted to hold off for a minute, and I don't quite remember what committee that was.
Okay, well, Sue, did you, I guess after the meeting, we can talk with Sue and get that squared away. That'd probably be the best thing to do, because we have Al on several committees, because we thought we couldn't put board members on committees that were officers, but we found out that we can, except for me. So there are some things that we can do a little differently now.
It was definitely one that he was on that we were looking at. I just don't quite remember the name of it. So
okay.
Yeah.
But Regina, I'll put a plug in. My term ends December 31. Is it 2021 or 2022, Sue? But I've been on this board since 2005. And given that you've got a fully functioning elected school board, I have no pretenses that I'm not asking for, or somebody else on that school board may want to sit on this board. So between you and Albert, I'll put a plug in for investments as well.
Okay.
I would agree.
What'd you say, Al?
I said I would agree with that, and especially because I'm not a slow learner, but I'm a busy man. And I still need to sit down with Christina just to learn more about the investment. But I know even with that, even with learning more, I would definitely need more. I would need assistance because, I'm a pre-K teacher by trade.
Okay. I guess after the call, if we could look at the investment committee certainly is interesting to me too, and then the other one, I guess, is also, I thought of interest, especially with the change in the way the retirement fund will be funded.
Right.
And I thought the other committee seemed to deal more with that. So I would probably be interested in that one as well. So.
Okay.
Well, Regina, we have your orientation on the 14th, so maybe we can talk about that and go over the committees with you and maybe kind of decide. I don't know if Louis, you're going to join us or not, but
yes.
I think maybe that's the place to go through that, and then let me let you, Louis, let you know after the right after the orientation. Would that be okay?
Exactly. That'd be fine.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for that.
Okay.
So I know, and maybe we can do these at the end, but if we want to accept this RFP schedule, then the committee would have to vote on it and for the next board meeting, to present it to the next board meeting. But maybe we can do it.
No, so let's go ahead and vote on it. So we'll have that piece of the business complete.
Okay, very good. All right, so need a motion.
Is that something that Matt has that we can read, or do we just have to off the cuff?
I would just make a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a pre-printed motion.
Okay.
Sue does, but
okay, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the RFP schedule for consideration for the upcoming financial year.
I second.
Louis, do you want to make it for the upcoming year or for as the proposed RFP schedule as presented?
You know what? You're right. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the RFP schedule as presented.
And I still second. Okay.
Thanks, Bobby.
So I'll call the roll. Christina Bennett.
Oh, were there going to be any questions at all? Questions or comments?
Questions.
Oh, yeah. Only thing I was thinking about with the auditors, and although I'm wholeheartedly in agreement that we should bid out the auditors because they've been with us so long, but just a note for us to think about in the future. Audits are most effective when the audit firm has a 3-year, at least a 5-year contract versus 3 years. So we might want to consider that when we do the next RFP.
And Regina, they've been our audit firm for quite a few years, But what we did in the past, what we wanted to do is we
Mhm.
wanted to, the reason we wanted the 3 year, we don't necessarily, we've never been since 2015, 2005, we've never been good at keeping any RFP schedule, or if there was really one that we followed. So when we did these, we did them because the names changed, like accounting firms kept changing and
Mhm.
combining. And what
Mhm.
we tried to do historically is um, limit or try to guarantee fees or contracts with minimal increases on a 3 year increment. But usually they are 3 to 5 years. But because this firm kept changing and we didn't
Mhm.
go to a full, we did do one full blown RFP that I can recall.
Mhm.
We wanted to ensure pricing, cost pricing
Right,
control.
yeah, yeah, and
So that's
they'll
why,
actually, they'll actually commit to a 5-year schedule to control pricing as well. But a lot of the bigger firms won't even accept anything less than 5 years these days, just
yeah,
because it takes the first 2 years to really get to know the client, and then, you know,
yeah,
after that. So, but you can still control the pricing. So, yeah,
yep.
even with 5 years. So, okay, thank you.
Do we have to do anything in the motion, Matt, or is that that acceptable as I presented and Bobby seconded? Is that okay?
Yeah, I believe that's acceptable. I think now we just go to the roll call vote.
Okay.
Okay, Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Lewis Cross,
Yes.
Regina Fowler,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin. Let's see, Sheila, are you on mute?
Is she on mute? Sheila? She didn't hear us.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Okay. Yvette Levy,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
and Justin Stein.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 8, so the motion carries.
Okay.
Great. So can we move to the professional development proposal?
Right.
And Sue, maybe you can kind of talk to us about the proposal and what you requested, and does it meet your requirements? Also, well, I'll let you go through that first.
Okay, sure. So I met with this individual, Nancy, and I will just say Nancy is her first name. I'm sorry about her last name. I don't want to fumble her last name, but so Chair Cross had actually provided me with her contact information as someone I think who he had contact with at an event or something, and she has been in communications and public relations for many years, and has recently started her own business. So she and I spoke last November. We've had several conversations actually since then, but she proposed, and what I talked to her about is doing something, with the staff here to do a little bit of team building. I thought that would be important, with myself being new to the group, and also obviously on communications, customer service, things like that. So she provided some proposals, and this is her initial one. And I think, we're still, it may be a little tweaked from, what we actually get, but I think it's pretty much cost-wise, we're looking at the same thing. So we're looking at probably 4 or 5 different programs. She is very big on this emotional intelligence. That would take 3 hours, and it's helping people understand why they communicate the way they do and how they communicate, and kind of getting to kind of some of the core things, and then doing some customer service and some assertiveness, communications as well. So probably looking at, 5 different 1-hour programs. We might tweak that up a little bit. I have since talked to her maybe about starting that in the fall, maybe September timeframe, simply because pretty soon now it's going to be in our peak time of the year for retirements, and then we will have open enrollment that kind of needs to get launched. So September, seems to be a pretty good time frame that we could start with that program. And so this is just a little bit about the programs, and then I just was going to get to the cost. So she's proposing that would cost $4,500. Now, this was included because I had spoken with her back in November. This extra funds I did put in the professional development in for the staff in the budget. So there is funds actually budgeted for it. And maybe by September, we would be able to do it live. I don't know. She might be able to come here, or we might be doing it via Zoom. I'm not obviously sure yet, but so this was the proposed cost.
So I have a question about bids and quotes. Is this at a threshold that we can accept it? Do we have to have more than one bid or quote? What's our policy around that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, and Matt, maybe you can comment as well. I don't necessarily think there's anything that says it's got to be a certain amount, but that before it has to go out to RFP. But obviously, certainly there's good reason to go out for RFP for certain things as well.
Sue, I
Yeah,
had to
no.
jump on another call really quick. Who is she? I didn't see the first page,
Oh, sure.
and I apologize.
Get it back up there for you. So there she is, Nancy.
Oh,
I apologize about her last name. I don't want to
Yeah.
oh, STL polished. Okay.
And I guess too, the other question is there another organization that we could look at that could provide the same professional development?
Yeah, I'm
Can you go down a little bit, Sue? I just wanted
Yeah.
to see what the metrics were. So she's doing a staff presentation on professionalism and communication skills.
That's correct.
Okay.
And there was one other thing, Sue, you said she was really big on the
The emotional intelligence.
emotional intelligence.
That kind of that's the starting point, that kind of helps everybody understand how they communicate and why they communicate. But again, I also was looking at it from a perspective of team building as well, too. Yeah, I'm sure there are other firms. Offhand, I don't know any other firms, but I'm sure there are other firms that we could certainly look at if that is, what the board would prefer to do.
Let me look up. I think Carla Bailey does something, and let me think of something else. But let me look really quick if she's still doing it. Hold on.
And then what's our do we have anything that states how much PD we offer staff on an annual basis?
No, there's nothing.
No, we didn't. We never did establish that. I guess we could going forward, Yvette. That's a good idea.
And Yvette, I also don't think that we have invested, besides
training.
paying for some classes, we've
That's right.
invested in our staff. I don't ever recall us coming to the
Nope.
board saying that our employees are getting trained, whether it's Excel skills or whether it's computer skills. I don't believe in any of our executive director reports historically that we've been informed of what our staff has been trained at.
Susan, have you ever been at any sessions provided by the person who owns the firm?
I'm sorry, Regina, what was the first part of your question?
I was asking if you have ever attended any sessions of the person who owns the firm.
I have not. Now,
No,
Mr. Ross,
I
I think has.
yeah, she had a running time slot on the radio, and I followed her for quite a bit, and I was very impressed with.
I see, okay.
And that was it. My concern, Regina, was that I visited the office, retirement office, numerous times as a trustee, and I just noticed that there were a lot of things in the office that I felt should be addressed, and one of them was the attire. A couple of times I came there, and some of the people had on house shoes, and you know, they were not looking professional at all. And also there was some feedback from the board side that there wasn't a good communication between our office and the board. There was a lot of static sometimes. And so those are things that happen. But I thought maybe if we could have training for our staff, which they had never really received. And I was on the board back when we hired Andrew, and that was back in 2005. I think, yeah, Christina was on the same time I was. And so I just thought that, you know, I didn't know all the processes and procedures to select a firm, but I was impressed with her. If in fact the trustees want to bid it out and all of that, that's fine as well. But I just want to get some kind of something for our staff so that they can learn how to work better together and to work with other groups, and especially with the Board of Ed.
I totally agree, Louis. I think that, as Christina said, we definitely need to invest in the staff and make sure that they are receiving professional development around customer service and professionalism, and the emotional intelligence piece, and even the team building piece. I think it's a wonderful idea. I am a bit surprised that we don't have a threshold for a proposal or a bid. But if it's not, and everyone is okay with moving forward, that's fine. But that's probably something we need to look at as well.
I guess I would feel more comfortable if Susan maybe looked at some people and maybe talk to some people, because whoever does it, I feel like she needs to be really comfortable with them, because it's going to be a person who's going to bridge the gap between her and the staff.
Yeah.
And I think that I would probably I would want to give her that opportunity to really look at people and talk and interview them, and then come up with someone who she's comfortable with.
And even Regina, to your point, even some references from some groups that they've worked with before.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like what Yvette was saying, you listed some things. Is as a board, Sue probably knows more about what she thinks her staff needs.
Mm-hmm.
So even if she came up with a list of things, and then when she went and chose somebody, or went and start interviewing people, maybe she would know. And I'm probably talking out of hand because I'm talking for Sue, but I think it'll be up to Sue to figure out, okay, what does
this
her
is who
staff
I want to go with. Yeah.
Right. Who she want to go in? What does her staff need? Because we can say, I mean, Louis said he walked in, they were in flip-flops, but if that doesn't, does he know the context of why they were in flip-flops? But so it's up to Sue to see, because Sue's there day to day, so she knows more of what's going on day to day. So she should probably come up with something that she wants her staff to know, what will help build them as a team to make us all successful.
I want to ask, can the board members sit? Can we on their board, can we sit in one of these trainings, or is it just for the staff members?
Well, and I did have, like I said, I've had several conversations with Nancy, and I think she would most likely do a good job. And we did talk about the board, and of course she's very interested in maybe doing something for the board. As far as, I wouldn't want to intimidate the staff by having a board as a
Mhm.
presentation. So we kind of talked about maybe doing something separate for the board as well. But that's something we didn't really settle on a final answer on that. But
Okay.
Okay.
so I can
Okay, Sue,
certainly,
will that be additional fee or is added into this?
I could talk with her about that. She did not say it would be an extra cost to do that. She was very excited. She's, I want to say she's on a couple of boards herself. So she understands kind of the dynamics of a board and she's very interested in doing what, she can to offer her expertise. So I can certainly perhaps maybe do some references with Nancy and her company, and then maybe report back to the board, and then maybe we can decide if we want to get other vendors or what her reference.
That would be good. I think
I
that's
think
Yeah.
I think getting some references would be great. And then because your time frame is September, you have a little time for you to make a decision.
Yeah.
Also, Sue, look at Carla Bailey.
Okay,
She's local as well.
is that Carla with a C?
Yes.
Bailey is the last name?
Yes.
Okay,
Look at her, and then I'll send you another one so you can see. There's someone that's at the top of my mind, and I can't think of for the life of me the name, but I will email it to you, and then that way, hit all three birds with one stone, and that way you can get references and maybe some bids on some of these others, and that way it just becomes a total package. So
Okay.
we don't have to do it twice.
yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, because I'm looking at Polished here, and she's done a lot of corporations, which are bigger. Community College, Bank of America, Soft Surroundings, some of these bigger organizations, Ronald McDonald House. So I'm looking at a lot of the clients that they have served. Not saying good, better, and different. I'm just saying I see the website, and so she does have experience. But is it the right experience for what we need?
Mhm.
Is what I want to look at.
Okay. Yeah, I will talk to her.
Great.
okay.
And
Any other
Matt,
questions on that?
I was just going to ask Matt to comment if there's, I don't believe there's a threshold, but are you aware of any?
No, I'm not aware of there being any threshold to have an RFP. I mean, I'm not aware this had to be RFP. However, I think sort of what the board is getting at is probably a good idea in terms of looking at not only her references, but maybe perhaps getting competing bids or getting competing quotes. From just a general fiduciary standpoint, it's not a bad idea.
I think that's a good idea to get 2 more bids for apples to apples services, and then see which one that Sue likes the best, and then go with. Then we can vote on that, I guess.
Yeah, we probably, and we could do bids, and we don't need to do RFP because the RFP is a pretty extensive process. So some
Right.
things we need to set a threshold for bids, and then some things RFP because
Right.
we would just
Right.
prolong everything through RFP process.
Exactly. Okay. Let's see.
The last thing on the agenda is the performance evaluations, and Sue did send us what I thought were 2 different
Yeah,
tools that could be used.
I did have the phone system on there too. I wanted to talk about the phones too. I think that wasn't in the original that I might have sent to you, but that is something that's recently come up. So
Okay,
just wanted to mention
I
that.
did not see that. So let's talk about that.
Okay, so if you want to do that first, so we've had some recent developments with our phone. I think a lot of you on the board are familiar with the phone system that we have. It's called Freedom Voice, and I think there was a lot of hopes with that system. Was brought to us by Blade, our technology vendor at the time, and they felt it was is going to be a really, really good system for us. Well, it's never really turned out that way. So that's been around since 2019. Probably we're right at 3 years. Right now we're paying about $450 a month for that system. Freedom Voice was purchased by GoDaddy shortly after implementation. And since then, they have really not put anything in the system. They have not, really no new upgrades are planned, nothing. It was pretty much things that were promised just never happened. So we learned in the last couple weeks, and we don't have anything official, but our concern is that this phone system is going to go, it's just going to go away here soon. So we talked with Blade, our technology vendor, and also Chairman Cross. He had a contact with a company called TSI. I think they work with St. Louis Public Schools. And
They do.
we reached out to them and kind of told them what our issues were. So what our current challenges are with the system, just to give you some examples, actually just making a phone call. You'll dial a number and there's often a delay before the call actually goes through.
Right.
That's pretty common. Folks can send us a voicemail and it might be the next day before we get that voicemail, which obviously with a retiree, that's pretty unacceptable because they're expecting, you to call them back. And if you don't even know that they called, that's been a lot of issues. So I had that happen to myself a couple of times. It's not something that happens to everybody, but that actually occurred to me on a few occasions as well. When calls are transferred from, say, the receptionist, there's no caller ID. It just looks like the receptionist is calling. So that's not how a phone system should work. You should have some caller ID so that when the person picks up the phone, they have some expectation of who that person might be. And I think one of the big issues is the detailed reporting. There is a lack of really any kind of reporting. One of the first questions that I asked is, let's take a look at some of the phones. Let's see, how many calls we're getting in, how many are being answered, how many are being lost. There is no reporting to tell us any of that. So we have had in March, we have conducted demos of 2 new phone providers. The first is Mitel, which was recommended by TSI. And then the second was Net2Phone. So Blade did kind of a global search and, they recommended one vendor from many that they work with. Right now, Net2Phone is kind of their preferred vendor. So we looked at both of those systems, did demos with both of them, and the costs are would be about 50% less than current. So a savings and a better product. Really, both of them are better products than we have currently. Mitel, they've been around for a long time and they do seem to be very heavy in schools and educational institutions. We were very impressed at their admin portal, their reporting, their call transferring. There are just a lot of really good things in that system. The phones themselves, they left a phone here for us to play around with for a couple weeks, and it was a very good phone. The staff liked it. The other nice thing that's part of their package is audio and web conferencing. So theoretically, could use that system instead of maybe Zoom or something down the road. So they do have that ability built into their system. It's kind of a new product, but that would not be at any extra cost.
That's the Mitel, Sue?
That's Mitel.
Okay.
So really, after looking at both Net2Phone and Mitel, we really, the technology manager, myself, and talking with the staff, we really feel, and even, talking with Blade, the technology vendor, they don't really see any gotchas with Mitel. There are a few things with Net2Phone. Their reporting isn't as good. it just seems like Mitel would be a pretty good fit. So we would have to, go with them for 3 years. The agreement would be for 3 years. So the pricing would be guaranteed. They have some, right now, there's really not any charge for the phones themselves. That's why the cost is so good right now, but that would be in place for the next 3 years. The nice thing about Mitel also is the local TSI support and assistance that they would be available to help in implementation and going forward. We'd also still have Blade, our technology vendor, but I don't know that they'd have to get real involved because we would have not only TSI, but we would also have Mitel as well.
Is there a separate cost for the implementation ongoing service?
There is not. Yeah, it's all built in.
Is there a way to monitor calls if we do desire? A lot of times when you call, the company will say, the recording will say, this call might be recorded for quality assurance or something. Is there a way to do that in this system?
Yes, there is on-demand recording. We could set that up with the admin and then the users. I think I've been talking with Matt, maybe developing a policy that certain calls we might just, automatically record. We wouldn't necessarily want to record all of them, but certain calls, we would have a policy in place to record certain calls. But yes, the system will do that for us in pretty good fashion.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Louis,
Yeah.
you've been wanting that for years.
Amen. And I guess the reason why is a lot of times it was a he say, she say thing where somebody said this about their benefits or something, and it was like nothing to really justify whether they said it or not. And so, this, and then why would you get an internet phone system when they had a pretty good phone system, and then Andrew switched it to this system. And so I'm just glad that we're going to finally get something that is functional and gives our members better access to the retirement system.
Yeah, this would still be a cloud-based system, but Mitel is more of a phone company. I think Freedom Voice was more of an internet company that provided dial tone service. But this is, I would say, more of a true phone system.
Yes.
And Sue, I just want to say that I think all of us on the board are learning so much more about our internal operations, because I don't recall this decision ever coming up to RFP or discussion. So I may have gone blank from 2018, but I don't recall that we ever discussed this in detail. And most of us were on the board in 2018. So I appreciate the information, the knowledge, as well as the hiccups that we are having so that we can address them for better customer service, who are our retirees.
Yep, no doubt.
Miles an hour.
So any
Okay.
other questions on this one?
So we
Yeah.
just, are you just changing, or do we have to vote on something, or is it just, you just deciding to change? How do we do that? Is that the next thing?
I mean, I think it would be good to, if you all want to do a motion and vote on it, then makes it official.
I'd like to make a motion that we secure based on the recommendation of the executive directors, Sue Kane, we secure the Mitel system for the retirement system of the city of St. Louis.
This is Christina. I second.
Then I'll do the roll. Looks like we lost Yvette. She's coming back in now.
Okay.
So let me catch her up real quick. Okay, Yvette, we just did a motion
So
any
I was
que-
there. I had to switch devices.
Oh,
I heard
okay,
it.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. I didn't know if we lost you. Okay,
Nope, I'm in.
okay. All right, so then Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Lewis Cross,
Yes.
Regina Fowler,
Yes.
Yep.
okay. Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Yvette Levy,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
Justin Stein.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 8, and so the motion passes. And again, we'll present these at the regular board meeting as well.
Okay.
Okay, I think the last thing we have on the agenda is the performance evaluation.
Yeah.
Right.
Information. So you want to tell us about what you submitted? Where'd you get them from? Where they originate? Is it something you've used before?
Yeah, so let me get them up. So this is actually something I found that was in place here.
What?
Yeah, yeah, I was doing a little digging and I found them. Let's see. Oh, there, here we go. So I did a little tweaking. So what's included in here is there are 3 different documents, but it's really part of one process. So it's 3 different documents. There is the plan itself. Then self-appraisal is something, I developed this, it's pretty simple, but I've used self-appraisal before. I think that's always nice to give people input into the process. And then the actual performance appraisal itself. So this first document is really just, the plan. This is what the first step in the process that we would share with the employees. And this is just really a framework. But this is pretty typical what I have seen. I'm gonna have to pretty it up a little bit, but so for each staff member, we would have 4 or 5 different specific tasks that are part of their job functions. So we would, cite out here what it is that we would want from, each of those areas. So that would be specific. So this part 1 would be specific to each individual and their job function. And then part 2 are going to be more commonly shared with the staff, so that we would look at customer service, organizational skills, communication, teamwork, job accountability, and that's, dependability, getting to work on time, attendance, things like that. And then, we do have a mission statement, so how that individual contributes to that, the PSRS mission. So that would be part of their plan. This is what, we would look at each year for that person. And then we would add, anything specific for that year, maybe some short-term things or long-term things that need to get developed. We would add that here to this section. And then some support. So this is all just part of what would be shared with the employee really at the start of this process.
Okay.
So questions about this before I move on to the next?
Would you have, say an employee is giving now in the short-term goals, would you have a sheet for each short-term goal so that you could identify that they're, smart, all the smart, what specific, measurable and all that
It's a SMART goal, yeah.
Yeah, would you
Specific,
have
measurable, attainable.
Yeah.
Timely, and I think, yeah.
Yeah. Would you have a separate sheet for each goal so that you can make sure that the goals, meet the SMART standard? And also long-term goals, would they be part of the review process, or would that be part of would this sheet be representative of what the the employees would be assessed on? Or is this sheet just kind of a summary of, what they want to, of their developmental plan, what they're planning, what they're reaching for? And I guess I'm asking because I'm looking for that sheet that identifies each goal for the review period.
Yeah.
They get annual reviews so that we can understand how each of those goals are, meet the SMART.
Yeah. So this, going back to this would probably be the meat right here. This would be, somebody that, we've got, say our technology manager, that person is responsible for, posting all the website notices, blah, blah, blah. That would be an example
Right.
of something that we would, talk about here, that those are done on a timely basis. So we would talk about, what they are and what the measurement would be for those. So what's your standard and how are we going to measure you? So I think that would be the meat there. And then you'd also have the competencies, what you're bringing to it. And this page, I think if there's anything special going on, like, we're going to do a new phone system. So our technology manager, that's going to be a goal for him for this period of time. How's that going to be implemented? That's not something, he would have to do every year. This is going to be just more of a short term. So I see this one as changing, but it would be part of their evaluation process. So this one's going to change. The first 2 pages probably won't necessarily change.
Yes, on that first page, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Virginia.
I guess on that first page you showed me, I think instead of listing what the person does, which I would assume would be maybe in their job description, maybe this really talks about what the goals for that position is instead of what they do. Because what we're performing, what I would assume we're going to be evaluating if that person met the goals for the position versus just, doing the job because, you want to see growth or a high standard of performance at least. And maybe this does it. Not sure if I heard that necessarily, that, this sheet is going to be used for evaluating goals for the job. For instance, if the IT person is or I say customer service, maybe the customer service gets, so many compliments if we are evaluating that, from, the people he or she talks to, and how you're going to measure that through, recorded phone calls, through, callbacks from those they serve or something like that, versus listing out, what they do. I'm not sure if I would want to use a performance review to list out what they do versus the goals we want them to achieve in a particular time frame.
Yeah, and that's absolutely correct. Yeah, it would be their duties, but what do we expect? How do we expect them to be formed? When do we expect them to be performed?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would definitely be, what are your standards for these? But it would be specific to each individual's task. So yes, that's absolutely what the idea is behind this section. So yes.
What I was going to say was that one of the issues that Sue brought to the forefront was the fact that nobody other than Andrew was in charge if something happened, if Andrew got sick or something. So I think you elevated one of the people in the office to the assistant. Is that right, Sue?
No, not officially, just, someone, we now have it in the rules that, we will have someone that could step in and do a meeting if need be.
Okay. So that's the extent of it. They could just perform the duties of carrying out a regular meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but as far as knowing the nuts and bolts of what happens if you were incapacitated or something, we don't really have anybody.
Yeah, that's not how the office has been set up.
Okay. Okay.
But I thought Terry was being trained.
That's what I
Terry's been
thought.
coming to our meetings for a long time. So, I mean, he's watched the process with pretty much face-to-face meetings for several years.
Yeah, and I think, there's a lot of things. I guess I'm just saying there's no one who's officially the assistant to the executive director. There's no one in that position officially to do that.
Oh, yes, correct.
A lot of things, that Terry can do, but not everything. So there, it just wasn't structured to have an assistant to the executive director.
Okay. All right.
So then this would be the self-appraisal document, just some questions that the employee would answer. And, I just find this helpful and a lot of people don't like to fill these out, even though it's talking about themselves, but they don't like to fill it out. But I think it's helpful. And, sometimes it makes them realize, well, yeah, maybe I need to know more about this, or I need to know more about that. But I think it's just helpful for them. And then it's helpful for who the evaluator is to kind of understand, what's this person, their perception of their position. So this would be, part of the process before that official review would be done. The employee would complete a self-appraisal as part, and then that document would become part of the review.
One thing I would probably suggest is that the employee fills out the exact same appraisal form that the manager fills out, because it's a lot easier to reconcile the differences when they are really focusing on the same form. If, for instance, if a manager rates somebody meet expectations, but the employee rates themselves an E, exceeds, and then you really have a good discussion on why is it different? Why do you think it's different? Based on the results they documented versus the manager. And I just think it makes the review process a collaboration versus, and collaboration is important because goals and stuff should be set by the employee and the manager, because the employee is in the day-to-day workings of the particular job. And I remember a time when at a place we did it like this, where they just kind of described everything, but the reviews became much more effective, I thought, when the employee filled out the exact same form that the manager did, because then you can reconcile differences and misunderstandings a little better. And that was just my experience. So.
Okay. So that's the next
I
page.
like that, Regina, but I also like the piece about the self-evaluation, so that maybe it's not a self-evaluation, but it's a reflection, so that the staff is reflecting on what they've done throughout the year, and then, like you said, completing that same evaluation that the manager is completing. So I've reflected on what I've done, and I'm completing this based upon those reflections. And then now, why are there any differences between how I rate myself and how the manager rates me? And then how do we, like you said, collaborate and figure out what the gaps are, what are the misunderstandings, and make those corrections if necessary.
Yeah, and what I was doing is I was looking at the form that the manager would fill out, and it requires reflection on that form too. So I was just, if it could be on one form, with the evaluation, because connecting the actual evaluation grade with the reflections is really helpful, because the employee can't say I just exceeds without talking about the results and explaining the results, and that it gives them the opportunity to do it on both forms. And then when there's a discussion about the differences between ratings, you really go back to how what they reflected on the results and how they got there. And I think that's just so helpful in the conversation between a manager and an employee.
Totally agree.
I'm just happy that we finally have something in place that we'll be able to utilize.
And Sue, I think one of the things which is good to have as a tool, but may not necessarily have to be a part of this, is something that I sent very late today, is a PIP, so a performance in progress or something. So if somebody does need additional support or needs to bridge a gap over 30, 60, or 90 days, that it's a simple form that I sent to Yvette.
Performance improvement.
Yep. Yeah. So if she can share that with you, so that you have a tool and documentation to be able to bridge that gap as opposed to just an annual review. This is a short-term improvement plan.
Right, because if that is, because I'm late all the time, we need to intervene before the end of the year at the annual review.
Correct. So Yvette, if you could share that with her, it doesn't, it
Yep.
can be part of this process later. It can be added, but it's a tool for you to have so that we have documentation. And again,
Yeah.
historically, when employee issues have been brought up to the board, we didn't have supporting documentation in this fashion.
Right.
So
Susan, what other payroll system do you guys use?
It's an in-house system called
Ah.
PS. Yeah, it's
I
called
see.
WIN.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a homegrown system.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
And
Only reason I asked is because all the major payroll systems have these review systems
Yeah.
embedded in their payroll systems, and it's connected to payroll and all that stuff. But that's why I asked. But okay.
yep, that's why we're having this, because we have a homegrown system and
I
those
see.
resources are not there.
Yeah.
that's going to be a conversation for another day. So
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll talk
Sounds
about
like-
that later.
sounds like you want to have that conversation soon.
I do, but we got a lot of other conversations we have to have. So
Yes, yes,
good stuff.
yes, homegrown system, okay.
Yeah.
And Sue, I have want to ask a question. How often will your employees be evaluated? Is it once a year or once every 3 years? How would it work?
Well, I mean, certainly at least annually, but there should be, checkups. Obviously, a good evaluation system is not just a once a year. It's not a one and done. You're constantly talking about it. We could do something at least semi-annually. I know, ideal to do it a little more frequently, but I also want to be realistic. I don't necessarily know we could get to quarterly, but we could probably get to do something at least semi-annually, and then officially do this document then annually. And I really do like the performance improvement plan. I'm glad, Christina, you brought that up, because I do like that idea as well too.
I had just want to ask another question. Like, Yvette, how often do the teachers get evaluated? Is it every 3 years?
Teachers are evaluated once every year until they are tenured. They're tenured after 5 years. And then after tenure is once every 3 years. However, we could look at a mid-year review and then a final review at the end of the year. So halfway through the year, you kind of look at, okay, these are the goals we've set. How are you doing on those? Have you mastered those? Do we need to tweak them? So that's your mid-year. And then at the end of the year, you have your final review. So then you're not, like Sue said, you're not doing a one and done. We're looking at it at the mid-year and then at the end of the year. And so that's, obviously just creating a schedule. And then,
But Yvette, let's put that schedule into how we operate, in the sense that our budget meeting is usually in December, I want to say, of every calendar year, but our operating school year is on a June 30th fiscal year. So when we look at this, whether it goes June to June, or we may have a third year, right, or a third cycle that ends the 12 months in September of every year, so that Sue can do her evaluations and then make a recommendation to the board in our personnel meetings for when we discuss budgets and any raises and comp reviews that we have in December of every annual year. And that's the problem that we have had, is that we've had recommendations for increases or adjustments to pay with no understanding of what the evaluation process has been. So,
and I do like
what the
that.
justification is.
Christine, I do like that September piece, so that by December, when we're starting to talk about budget, it all falls in line.
Correct. So we may have an odd year this year or whatnot, and it may be an interim. But if we,
Yeah.
if we end our evaluations in September of every year, then that plays into our calendar year budget process, so that we can get that approved. And so that's just some feedback so that Sue can have some direction on where we're going. Because again, everyone deserves the right to know where they stand, what their goals and objectives are, and how to be fairly compensated based on their performances. And that's a discussion that our board, and even in closed session, we've never had of any of our staff.
I think this is really a good process to begin to really take care of our staff with the professional development, with giving them an opportunity to hear how they are doing and where they can improve. So I think we're starting to take care of the staff. So I don't see this, and maybe trustees, I don't see this as the same tool for Sue. So where do we go from here for as something that's a little more meaty, for lack of a better term right now in my head, for Sue, and who evaluates Sue? I mean, if it's
I think that Sue, one of the things that I know, again, corporations have used is a 360 review, which I don't know if you've ever done, but we have to come up as the board with a development and goals and objectives plan that we've never done, and so we'd have to do it in a meeting, where maybe Matt presides or whatnot, where it's a closed session, or we take it, we take a off-site training to be able to do this, even if we have to do it through Zoom with draft documents to build this based on Sue's job description that was handed to Sue when she applied.
Yeah.
And then be able to put those parameters into a format, and then really be able for us as a board to truly realistically see how we can measure that as a board, correct? But we'll also need a component of evaluation from the staff, and how do you get that? So this document is a little bit different than than what we need for Sue. And I didn't know if we NCTR, I haven't looked to see if they have a document. But if you give me a couple of days, I promise, Yvette, I will get some sample docs from some of the other, or let me ask Sue, what were you evaluated on, Sue, in your last job?
It was more this kind of a traditional kind of,
okay.
It wasn't, because I wasn't in an executive director role. So it was more like this. I have worked with 365. I've done that before. So I'm familiar with that.
Yep. So we would probably, Yvette, have to call an offsite or some type of professional training or something meeting so that we could get all this organized. Obviously, Sue would still be have an input on what the job description was, putting it into those parameters, and then we would set some of those goals and objectives, and she could even put in some of those goals and objectives that she would like to accomplish in that format. We just need the format.
Excuse me. The NCTR, National Council of Teachers Retirement.
Yes.
They have a form and a package that's directed towards an executive director.
Yes, I
Good.
thought they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
Okay,
they
well,
did that recently when they were searching for a new director and for another retirement position down the road of another organization. So you can try them, and it was very effective.
Yeah,
okay,
so
that sounds good. So Chris, you're gonna get that for us, or
yeah,
Sheila?
I'm gonna send Yvette some stuff, and then I guess we can compile a combined some type of report too, and then really um I mean I'd have to dig for what the job description was, but you would know that I'm
Yeah.
sorry better than we would, Sue, since you went through that process, and then be able to help us to get that format in place for yourself.
Oh, okay.
I just have a couple of general questions. Is the public school retirement system, is it considered a public entity, governmental entity?
Yes.
Okay. And then I guess I have a question for the attorney. Are there any, things we have to consider for a public entity? I know when the last job I had was a public entity, an enterprise entity, though. We had a lot of considerations we had to give it for the fact that we were, in fact, a public entity.
I guess it really depends on sort of what the issue is in terms of having a meeting. So for example, what Trustee Bennett was talking about was getting together in meetings, setting together the performance review form for the executive director. That's something that we are governed by the Sunshine Law. And so that's something we'd have to take into account because we are a public entity under the Sunshine Law, is that when you get together and you have a quorum, which for a committee level is 4, that's something to keep in mind, is that once you hit that quorum threshold, you then have to go through the official notice posting process of a meeting, having a meeting, making it available to the public. Now, ultimately, what you are discussing very well may be able to be closed because it may be a personnel matter or a legal matter, but then you still at least have to take the initial steps of posting the meeting. Having the meeting at the very beginning would be open to the public. And then if the board wanted to then vote on a roll call vote to close it pursuant to the Sunshine Law, then you could do that as well. And then it would be closed through that matter. So at least for the meeting purposes, yes, there are a lot of considerations that we have to take there. I don't know if you had something else that you had in mind or.
That was one, yeah. The other thing was related to the employees. If we say if we have an employee who is not performing well, are we required to go to those multiple PIP steps and to show that that employee's deserving of termination if that ever came to the point, and having documentation. And the only reason I ask is because in a couple instances when we took actions, employees wanted to sue because of procedural issues. And I want to make sure our procedures are in place related to all reviews, whether it's the executive director or other employees, and so that won't happen to this organization.
So because we are a public entity, there very well could be due process concerns regarding the public employees that they may have in terms of constitutionally. Now, I know we do have a grievance procedure that is set forth in the rules. I believe it's specifically how they are. It's section 14. I don't know if I have the page 28. So we do have a grievance procedure that's set forth. Now, is there any specific requirement that certain things absolutely have to be done in terms of PIPs? No. However, it's one of those things that from a good governance practice, or particularly if you all may have more of an expertise at this from a human resources perspective, but it's very well supportive. It's a good idea to always document everything if you're going to be taking a disciplinary action against any employee, particularly where you may have some concerns, even if you didn't have any constitutional protections for the employee and you were just at-will employer, you still very well may be subject to certain lawsuits or legal action if the employee alleges certain action was taken against them for a protected class, for example. So I think it's always good if before disciplinary action is taken, no matter, particularly once you get more towards the severe level, suspensions, terminations, things like that, to have documentation as to what it is and have documentation as to why the employee is being disciplined and have things of that matter. And then having evidence or documentation supporting that as well. And so if an employee is habitually late, having records of the days in which they're late or days in which they're missed, or things like that. Instead of just showing up and saying, oh, you've been late a lot, or you've missed so many days, but then you really can't think of why or what. Or if you don't really tell the employee at the time that the discipline is given, why exactly are they being disciplined or for what specific instances? So that's kind of vague in general. That could be if you were to then have to face a legal challenge, you wouldn't necessarily have anything concrete that you could counter them with over, no, actually, as you may recall, we had a meeting here, here, and here where we discussed these actual issues. We gave you notices that actually said, no, it was about your performance or it was about your tardiness or absences. And so that definitely, even putting aside any constitutional protection that an employee may have, it puts then you in a better position if you have to defend yourself in the circumstance if that were to occur.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for that, because I would just highly recommend that in addition to this, we have, strong documentation for any rating, good or bad, so that it's concrete based on factual data, not kind of impressions of employees. So, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Sue, we don't have to discuss the firm that checks to see if somebody has passed and is at this meeting. Do we or have you decided on what you're doing with that, or is that another?
Yeah, that will be, I haven't, no, not yet. No, that'll come up
Okay.
in the future.
All right.
I promise not that much longer. Well,
Okay. Oh, no, I wasn't trying to rush you. I was just saying I didn't remember if this is where we discussed it or not. I couldn't remember. But I know that that was something that was pressing as far as making sure we do a better job with the company we have, or get another company to find out if someone has passed and we've paid them for a year or 2 or 3 or whatever.
yeah. Yeah, I have to do a little bit more research, but yes, we will talk about that.
Okay. Regina, I do need your email.
Oh, okay. Do you want my school board email or what?
Well, whichever, because I need to contact you or talk to you. So whichever one you.
Let me give you the one that I look at the most then, okay?
Yeah, give me that one.
Yes. You ready?
Yeah.
It's R as in Robert, D as in dog, F as in Frank, 6160@gmail.com.
6160@gmail.
Yeah,
Tell me, Regina, I can't contact you on the school board email?
Well, I don't look at my school board email as much as you would think. So Susan, you might want to have my personal email too, just because, it's always with me. I have to have my school board phone with me to get that email.
Yeah, and I'll include an updated contact list with the board materials, and I'll put Regina's information in there.
Great.
Okay, thank
Great.
you.
So it sounds like we'll need to have another meeting, I guess, to dive into the nitty gritty. I just kind of wanted to give you all an idea of this is kind of the direction I was heading.
Yes.
And if you were okay with that, then I would, kind of continue marching down this path.
Sounds good, Sue.
Yeah, I don't think you need a vote to pursue this path. I think it's just the next meeting that we would go into closed session to discuss your form, Sue, your evaluation form.
Yeah. So I guess, Yvette, if you just let me know when you guys want to do that meeting, I'll get that set up.
Okay, great. Sue, I think if you, we can talk offline about what the time frame you need And then we can schedule a meeting once we figured out how much time you need to find the things that you need.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, unless there are questions.
I have one more
or,
question.
sure,
I have
go
one more
ahead.
question, but it's not dealing with the meeting though. So one of my employees asked me, she said, Bobby, why is my pension, the taxes they take out on her a check? She said, why is my pension, they take more taxes out than they did before? And I told her, maybe because you got more money and they take taxes out. She said, no, she didn't get a raise. So why is it her pension, the part, they taking more money out? So she keep asking me that, and I said, I try to find out for you.
Yeah. Well, and she can always call us, but the tax tables do change at the beginning of the year. So even if a person's income doesn't change, those tax tables do change. So that is probably what happened, you know, starting January 1st. You know, there are different tax schedule that could have impacted that. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, the amount of taxes, but
Bobby, and
Yeah.
remember too, when we went to changing the retirement years, that the board was gonna be putting in less into the fund and the employee was putting in more. Remember
Okay.
that when we had the lawsuit going on that too, because you know when they changed the retirement age from 80 to
85 to 80.
right, when that 85 rules was changed,
Okay.
that was part of it, that the board was going to be putting in less and the employee putting in more, and until they reached it, I think it was 9%, something on that order. I don't remember the exact figure, but
Yeah.
that was
Right.
part of it.
But like what Sue said, I would have her call the office because they would know exactly what was going on. And they're the, I mean, we're not the expert. We're supposed to be the expert, but they're the experts at the office. And it's probably a 5-minute phone call that they can explain exactly what happened and look at it and tell her exactly what happened. Am I right, Sue?
yeah, all right, Bobby, if you want to send me her information, I'll look at it and can reach out. And I guess I'm not sure if it's an employee, if it's an active or a retiree too. I might have misunderstood if it was an active, but if
Yeah,
it's
she's active, she's working, yeah.
okay, so if she's active, then the contribution did go up this year to 7% if they were here prior to 2018.
Okay,
So that's going to impact the employees, as Sheila mentioned.
okay, I can tell her to call you, but then that's a good start for me to put her in the right direction.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
If there are no other questions,
Let's do this. I make a motion to end the meeting.
Richardson,
Second.
second.
Sheila Goodwin, second.
okay, it's been motioned and second that we moved in second that we adjourn our meeting for today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Great-
thanks, everybody.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.